Hello, hello again. This is Nicholas Haffter von Heide. That's me. We have our guest Cole Cavanah for his second minuet in the series for the International Euphonium Summit. And like to thank you for coming back on, Cole, and being part of this and diving deeper into not only your high school session and as we traverse the whole going into the college phase here. Want to welcome you back to the International Euphonium Summit this year, and furthermore down the road for as long as I foresee. Thank you for coming
Thank,
on.
hey, thanks again for having me.
Awesome. So as I said, if y'all didn't, if you're on, if you are not on the podcast for student euphonium artists to parents or musicians alike, go check out the podcast. Links are down below to catch that. We did go over some really cool details behind the scenes of what's going on as we build this new platform for International Euphonium Summit and how it's going, and just recapping some things that Cole brought to us on the first kind of refresher with playing the oboe first, and then tuba, and then euphonium. And that's where we're going to jump back into. Actually, I'm sorry. No, alto sax first, and then oboe.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah,
alto
that's right.
sax. I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. No, alto sax. Yeah, alto sax is even here in my notes. I, yeah, that's my bad. Anyway, we had such a pleasure to have you on for the first time. As with all our artists, from euphoniums to tubas to trumpet players to composers to everybody who makes a difference in our world, to conductors and and directors. So back in high school with Mr. Burning, Mr. Burning was your high school band director as well, correct?
Yeah, he was the head high school director, and I think I want to say he was like the music coordinator for the entire school district, which was probably five or six elementary schools, two middle schools, and one high school. So it was a
And
pretty big program.
so, how many high schools were there in your city?
We just had one high school, but it was very big. It's probably like 3,000, 3,500 students there. My
So,
graduating class was really big. I mean, it was like five, 600 something people, I want to say.
okay,
Um, so
that's
yeah,
cool.
I come from a pretty big school district.
Okay. I'm just grabbing hold of my bearings as we're going into this, uh, kind of recapping the high school years and that transition into college. When did you first start noticing Morehead State and Dr. Stacy Baker and what she was doing there?
So I had actually had a friend from high school that ended up going to Morehead State to study trombone. He was a year older than me, and he had been there for a year. And whenever I was really looking into schools, I hadn't really even considered Morehead State. I didn't even really know of its existence. But he was telling me about this great music program that they had, and about this awesome tuba professor that they had down there. And I was like, well, I guess I'll at least entertain the idea and look into it. So I reached out to Stacy Baker, and she responded like almost immediately and was like, yeah, come visit, let's have an audition, I'll show you around. And it was great. My mom and I drove down there and had my audition with her, and it was history. I mean, I knew as soon as I met her and auditioned and saw the school and met some of the other tuba players and euphonium players there, I knew that that's really where I wanted to go. And I know that my friend from high school that had gone there, we have at my high school, we had people that would come in and teach private lessons. The school would supply the teachers, but the students would still pay for the lessons. And they would teach us in like during our band class and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman that taught trombone was a graduate of Morehead State back in the day, and she plays with the Columbus Jazz Orchestra, and she's a
Wow.
big jazz person. She's real. Her name's Linda Landis. Um, I don't know a lot about her history, but I know she's a pretty big jazz trombone player in like the Central Ohio area. Plays with the Columbus Jazz Orchestra, and I know she just came out with a new method book for trombone and some other things. So yeah, she was a Morehead State graduate, so that's how he had that pipeline there. But
Okay.
he was the one that ultimately told me that it was worth checking out. So I looked into the school and the music program and went and auditioned and
Yeah.
knew that that's where I wanted to go.
Was that your junior or your senior year that you went up there?
That was my senior year. I had that was ultimately when I had decided, I think, that I really wanted to pursue music was probably like the beginning of my senior year.
Was it before did you did your high school have a competitive marching band per se?
We did very competitive marching band. We were we were like a BOA band. We'd go to all the big competitions, and we did like the BOA Grand Nationals at the end of every year in Lucas Oil Stadium. So
Oh wow.
um yeah, I was always into band, and it was always one of something that I enjoyed, but I never really considered it as a career option until probably like the start of my senior year. I'd always wanted to be I wanted to go to baseball and play college, or go to college and play baseball was my ultimate goal. But I ended up shifting my direction towards music whenever I started playing euphonium. I started getting pretty good at it, and I really enjoyed it. My school offers the International Baccalaureate program, which is kind of like the advanced placement program, but just on another scale. And we had an IB music history course at my school, and I had enrolled in that. And I think that's ultimately where I had decided that I really wanted to be involved in music in some way. And it was because I had found interest in something academically. Um, I was never bad at school. I wasn't great. Pretty average student, like A, B, C student. But I started taking this like academic music course where we got to learn about the history of music, and it really interested me. And I think that's ultimately where I decided, like, I could keep doing this. I could study this and go to college for this. I really have an interest in this, and I want to learn more about it. I did all my homework for the class. I did it all on time. I did it all with I put a lot of effort into it. So I think that's ultimately what made me go, yeah, I want to be involved in music in some capacity in my life.
That's really awesome. So for the for the middle school euphonium artists, and for those that are listening, parents, BOA is Bands of America competition. You'll get to maybe be part of that at some point through your students' progression through music, with music, perhaps. I mean, there's US bands, there's all sorts of really awesome stuff. And then there's the UIL state marching competitions throughout every single state. I'm pretty sure it's every single state. We're kind of spoiled here in Texas. So
Yeah, I want to say that all states that have some kind of music education association have some kind of state marching band contest, or at least they might not have a state contest where there's a winner, but I think everybody gets ratings and they do it that way. I believe so.
I believe
I know
so
that's
as
how they did
well.
it in Ohio, and I think that's how they do it here in Arkansas as well.
So with your AP music, so was that an AP course specific? You got college credit?
No, it wasn't AP. It's called IB. It's the International Baccalaureate Program. It's different. Um, there's my school offered an IB diploma, which you could go and kind of like AP. You could stack your course load with all of these IB classes, and you can receive a special diploma at the end. I don't really know what that entails or what the need for that would be. Lots of people did it at my school. From what I know, they're doing pretty well now, but they just offered, one of the classes was IB music. And we didn't, I believe my school offers like an AP music theory course now, but they didn't offer it when I was there. This was the only academic music class that was offered outside of just some kind of performing ensemble. So so I enrolled in it, and there were three of us. It was me,
Wow.
a saxophone student, a violin student, and the teacher. So it was a really intimate teaching experience, and something like that. I never had any small classes like that, but I really, really enjoyed it. And we got to ask questions, and we got really specific instruction and personalized instruction that helped us. And, it was a great class, and I really enjoyed it. We just talk, we learned, that's where I learned how to analyze music. I learned about like sonata form before I even went to college. And I learned, we learned very basic music theory skills, like some chord analyzation and things like that. But it was more so like studying form and making like musical comparisons between like different genres and things. It was a really interesting and rather strange course, but it really piqued my interest and got me involved in the academic side of music. So I really enjoyed it.
So were you a section leader in your high school band and stuff like that?
I was, yeah. My first 3 years of marching band in high school, I marched sousaphone. Um,
Okay.
so sousaphone was because I was a tuba player my freshman sophomore year.
Hmm.
And then going into my junior year, whenever we had started band camp, I don't even know if I had been switched to euphonium at that point. I don't think they had told me, but so I was still marching tuba, but I was never a tuba section leader because we always had seniors that did it. But whenever I started playing euphonium my senior year, I marched baritone, and I was the section leader that year. Um, I tried out to be the drum major that year, and my band director kind of pulled me aside and said, "No, no, 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 no. I'm sorry. I have a solo planned for you. You're not gonna be the drum major." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, that's totally fine with me. I didn't want to do it anyway." So
So what
so
was the solo?
oh it was a variation on "In the Hall of the Mountain King" with a bunch of 16th notes in it. So I'm so glad I remember that. You put me on the spot
I
there.
know, right?
Yeah, it was "In the Hall of the Mountain King," and it was
Evergreen.
yeah, it was a back and forth with euphonium, and I want to say marimba or vibraphone maybe, or
Oh,
maybe
that's
even
cool.
synthesizer. Yeah, it was like a back and forth trading. It was kind of like a dueling banjos esque take on "In the Hall of the Mountain King." So it was cool, and it was a lot of fun. They put some high notes in it that I wasn't quite ready for, but I played them half the time.
Ah, so did you go to so what was the biggest competition you went to your high school year? Just curious. Did you go to the Grand Nationals your senior year? Oh, you did.
Yep. So I played that solo in Lucas Oil Stadium, and it was terrifying. Not the scariest solo I've played ever, but it was at the time it definitely was. Being mic'd up in a big stadium like that with all the reverb, and as a young musician, you don't really get experience to practice with something like that. They kind of just throw you in and say, "Hey, don't listen to the echo. Don't just watch the drum major and do what you've been doing all year." But they put you in that situation. It's so new and it's so grand, and there's so many people in the stands. It's kind of like the Super Bowl for marching band. And
Yes.
if you're playing a solo like that, it's like you're the quarterback. It's third down. It's a really high pressure situation that there's really no way to prepare for. So that was really nerve wracking for me at the time. But um,
Was that the
it's one of
first
those things that
was that the first time you were mic'd up ever?
probably, I can't, uh, I'm trying to think if we did any other competitions like that where I was like mic'd, but I don't think I was. And at least if I ever played into a microphone, it was never in a closed stadium like that. It was in an open air football field where there wasn't as much reverb or anything. So it's totally different. And I remember walking on the field to the drum cadence and just hearing the snare hit and then hearing it come back at you like 2 full seconds later and going, "Oh my gosh, like this is way different." And it was always fun to it was always a kind of a theme for the seniors every year, just to turn around and start screaming like, "Don't listen to the echo." So it was always fun to go in and do that, and then everyone leave the field, go, "Oh my gosh, that was way harder than anything we'd done all year." Well, and then another thing to consider was the turf in the stadium had the pro hashes on it. So the high school hashes were just like taped on. So there's two different sets of hashes, and you have to tell people like use the front hashes, the ones that are further out. And so yeah, it was always strange to get into that situation. Like, all right, here's the biggest competition of the year, our biggest performance, and here's all of these new things that are gonna be thrown at you, and just pay attention.
It'd be really interesting to see who's marched at the Lucas Oil Stadium up in Indianapolis. And if you want, let us know who you performed with, drum corps or high school band or any musical affiliation. Let us know below. We're curious to see who's had that same experience that Cole did. It'd be really cool. So going from that to graduating with your senior class and that transition as we're wrapping up, which it's interesting, that whole conversation was just one little minuet, one little piece that offered such value. I think with the parents and student artists at the high school level, even those preparing to get into high school, that they know that they might be doing a BOA or big marching competition, and they can start hearing, don't listen to the echo, march on the front hash and stuff like that, and just kind of prepare that mindset. As you went into moving into your dorm, I'm assuming you moved into the dorms at Morehead State.
Yep, I did.
And you had your mom drive you down and get all set up and all that good stuff?
Yeah, whenever we drove down, both my parents went, and I want to say that I had marching band rehearsal that same day, so it was kind of a quick process of, all right, let's get you checked in and get your stuff moved in, and then we got to be done by noon because you start marching band. And I want to say it was just like an opening day, kind of like welcome to band. Here's what to expect. I don't think there was a whole lot to it. I don't know. That was a while ago. but yeah, the move-in process whenever you're in marching band in college is a little different. It's not usually, I want to say it was the same at UCA. Was this year they had like a move-in day, but that same day they kind of hit the ground running with meetings and getting planning for the whole year. So it's not the same as people getting to spend the whole day with their parents and their parents not wanting to leave. I had to tell my parents, like, all right, I gotta go to band. I gotta get started. But I guess where I was a little different was the summer before my freshman year. I'd actually lived on campus for a month, and I took some summer classes. Oh, wow. Just to kind of get ahead. I took like my first year seminar class, everyone's favorite college algebra. And I think I took just like a college writing class too. And that was a huge help to me. It was very beneficial for me because I kind of learned the campus. I got to take the summer with, there weren't as many college students there. So I would stay on campus Monday through Friday and take my classes. And then on weekends, I would drive to Ohio, Indiana, sometimes some places in Kentucky. I'd have baseball tournaments. So I was playing like my last year of summer baseball, and I'd leave for the weekends to go play tournaments, and I'd go back to campus and go to school, which I remember my teammates thought that was hilarious because I was like, oh, what are we doing tonight? I'm like, oh, I got to drive back to Kentucky. I have class tomorrow. And they're like, it's July. I'm like, I know. Like, I'm getting this out of the way, which I'm so glad I did, because looking forward in my career, or in my academic career at Morehead State, I ended up changing my major and I still graduated on time. So I'm going to give a lot of props to that summer program that got some of those credits out of the way for me, because it really helped me in the long run.
Well, that's great, because we mentioned that in the first minuet, and that'll probably be the third minuet when we get to it, which is totally fine. the audition process with Dr. Stacy Baker, what was that like?
Um, so I went in and I just had a prepared solo. I was behind in the sense of like I knew what I wanted to do. I wasn't really convinced at that point that I still wanted to do music, so I just had a solo that I had prepared. I didn't have any etudes. I mean, I knew most of my major scales at least at that time. So, I mean, she probably had me do some scales and some sight reading, but I had worked up the Clark version of the Carnival of Venice in high school for whatever reason. And I ended up using that as my audition piece. So I auditioned for a couple of schools and sent recordings into others, and that was the piece that I had played for all my auditions. So I played that and some scales, some sight reading, and I think that was probably just about it.
Did you end up getting a scholarship at Morehead State with that?
I did. So yeah, I just got just a general music scholarship, and yeah, it helped a lot.
That's awesome. Well, I think that would be a great way to dive into the third minuet very soon here. And I really want to thank you, Cole, for joining us for recapping and just diving into your high school years, especially that transition into euphonium per se, and want to just we really appreciate your experience as with all our guests and such. And for those watching, thank you for stopping by and catching this segment for Cole Cavanah on the International Euphonium Summit. And we invite you back for our third minuet, which will all be linked below in sequence and such. And if I happen to come across the recording of In the Hall of the Mountain King at Lucas Oil Stadium, I will put the link below, or if anybody else knows where to get that, let us know.
So just to preface that, it's funny. I know Michael Burning is currently working on a digital archive of all the marching band shows of all the years that he was there. So it's possible that it is very possible someone might come across that.
So if you're listening now and you don't see it linked below, put the link below for us. We'd be eternally grateful. And with that being said, thank you all for stopping by on the International Euphonium Summit series, and looking forward to having you watch all the other guest artists, composers, conductors, directors, and seeing you down the road and being part of this amazing world that we have here as euphonium artists. And whether you continue through college or professionally, your family, welcome. And won't you stay for a little while longer? And that being said, thank you all for stopping by. We'll talk to you next time. Serve well. Bye, everyone.